A little bit about myself. My name is Spencer Aiken, and most of my professional career has been in the fitness industry, where I personally was helping regular individuals learn more about fitness so that they can become a personal trainer and or work to some degree in the fitness industry. So I've been lucky enough to help personally over 1,000 people become certified personal trainers through a 15 plus year career in the fitness industry. I've been lucky enough to teach at two different national conferences, both NAPEC and at Shape America, and at multiple state conferences, teaching curriculum creation, teaching strength training for beginners and advanced, mobility, warm-ups, cool downs, everything along the spectrum of in the fitness world. I'm trying to bring to the physical education world because over the course of my career, I realized that there's two, possibly three major complaints of most adults. Number one is I'm overweight and I don't know how to lose the weight. The easiest answer for that is if you never gain the weight, or if you know from the start how to avoid becoming overweight, you can prevent it. It's easier to prevent it than it is to lose it once we have it. So most adults don't know the methods, the nutrition involved, the level of exercises, the types of exercises, or the types of fitness programs that serve their best purpose. The second most common complaint is I don't have any balance. Okay. My balance sucks is what they say all the time, or my balance is horrible. Okay. It's pretty common to a person, those two complaints. The third complaint is I am not comfortable in the gym and or weight room because I just don't know what to do. As our population continues to age, as our population continues to grow, and as we continue to increase the amount of members at fitness facilities, whether that's a hardcore gym or more of your Pilates yoga places, they're trying. They just don't have the confidence. And that's because the physical education world did not necessarily base a lot of its program, its curriculum on how to create lifelong fitness. Now, we are doing our best to help educate. So my first and foremost goal is to help as many teachers possible understand that sports are great, gameplay is important, but as our students age, it's very important we start implementing lifelong skills so that they, as they become 18 years old and or so and graduate, move on to college, move into the real world, start having kids of their own, and start to realize that they potentially, hopefully not, but potentially gain 20 to 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds. They now have the knowledge, the experience, and the applicable ability to help themselves, okay? Our job, my personal job, my endeavor is to educate as many people as possible so that they can become healthy. Maybe, just maybe, at that point, we can start to combat the sedentary lifestyle of most adults and the overweight population increase that is currently reaching pandemic epidemic levels, to where cardiovascular disease and obesity is becoming our number one killer. Okay, we can prevent that. The way that we can do that is establishing a confidence when they're young so that they're comfortable doing things as they age. The number one SEL rule is confidence builds enjoyment. Okay, so if you help them become confident in what they can do, kids are more willing to participate, the enjoyment increases, and the likelihood that they'll continue it increases. So with that being said, what we have found is we like to make things as fun as possible. Our job, my job, is to create fun challenges, create educational challenges, and to mirror the two together so that Our kids are having fun. They're building confidence, but more importantly, they're building lifelong skills that transfer to the rest of their lives. There is a belief that fitness-based PE is all about in the weight room. Okay, you have to go and do strength training. You're never going to hear me mention weight training per se. It's generalized as strength training because there are so many activities out there in the world that are not just doing bench press and or squats, which can increase your strength. Being strong in your life is very important. The more methods we can teach to our kids, the more skills we can help them develop so that they can become strong outside of the weight room / gym, and or then apply that same ability to the gym, because going to the gym is an easy skill set that they can apply individually in their lives. It's kind of hard to play a pickup basketball game when your friends are all working, you're on different schedules, you have kids of your own, but you can drop your kids off at the daycare at your local gym, get in your 30 to 60 minutes of exercise. It's more attainable and realistic for them to do that. Now, once again, there's nothing wrong with sports. I play sports, grew up playing sports, played sports in college, and I'm a huge believer that athletic activity is very important in our overall health, both our mental and our physical. However, there is possibly a more important methodology that we can apply to physical education. Having said all that, we found that a lot of elementary school kids are learning the basics of sports, learning the basics of movement, and learning the basics of gameplay. And then sort of as we get into middle and high school, there are teachers who are focusing exclusively on the gameplay, but the games that they're picking in their curriculum are a lot of the sports that kids aren't necessarily the most interested in. Because if a kid has not played volleyball by the time they're in 9th, 10th grade, they probably don't need a volleyball unit, because the kids who actually enjoy volleyball are probably already tried out for the volleyball team. That volleyball is just an example, and there are plenty of examples of things that are valuable skills. We're trying to take sport and fitness and marry them so that more kids have a overall liking and an enjoyable experience in physical education. All right. Now, with all that being said, this is the structure of how we generally create our sessions for the kids that we get to work with, because we're trying to develop lifelong skills. Remember, the more skills we can develop and master, the better off we are. And the skills we are talking about is physical literacy. All right. So I'm going to step off for 1 second, and then we're going to get started. Okay, so this is the structure of how fitness-based PE looks to us. Now, one thing that we have to understand is that you, as a physical education instructor, have many variables in play, and nothing is going to be specifically 100% set in stone that this is how you do it. This is simply how it is applied to us based on the time frames that we have available. Some of you, all of you, have different class scheduling. Some of you have as little as 30 minutes, plus you have to change clothes. Some of you have 60 minutes. Some of you have 5 days a week. Some of you, unfortunately, have as little as 1 day a week. Some of you have a block 2-hour scheduling. All of those have to be accounted for. And what we're simply doing is showing you the structure that can be manipulated to maximize the benefits and maximize the ability for kids to learn skills. All right. So the takeaways from this class are these. We want to, and ideally, make things challenging yet fun. Kids do more, participate more when it's fun for them, it's interesting, but there is a slight challenge. We constantly reminding our kids by yelling out fun challenge. We'll literally say the words, hey, everyone, this is a fun challenge, reminding them that it's a challenge, which means they're not going to be perfect. It is okay to miss and or fail occasionally. That's why we're telling them it's a challenge. Challenges are not supposed to be 100% complete. All right. So it is a challenge, but yet we still want to make it fun for them. Time is a variable. How long do we do each portion of our class is variable based on multiple factors. As I already mentioned, how long is your class? How many kids are in your class? It is easier to explain a drill to 5 kids than it is to 50. And that is important to understand. You should have an understanding of the approximate amount of time that it takes to explain things. All right. Then from there, sometimes, fortunately, unfortunately, kids take a little bit longer to master skills. Now, what we're talking about skills is a skill set, not necessarily just the skill, but throwing is a skill set. So we might have drills that start at level 1 and then build to level 2. And then in the middle of the drill, realize our kids are not quite grasping the skill yet, and they're not ready to move to level 2. So we can hold off and stay in level 1 longer. And then maybe the next class, we move to level 2. So everything you have to understand is you need to be adaptable. Because in the back of your mind, it's not about, I have to do this. I have to get to here. This is where we're at. We're in a process of skill development, and skill development can take time. Everything is a variable based on where did we get to. So the rubrics are based on, are they getting better at that skill, subjectively, objectively, but we don't have to get to a certain stopping point. We have to be adaptable to know, well, we were hoping to get to say level C or level 3, and we didn't quite get there today. Next time we're going to build. Okay. So a lot of the structure that we have are skill sets based off of improving from A, B, C, D, and then going through that learning skill process. Okay. All skills are learnable, adaptable, and potentially challenging. And what do we mean by that? Balance is a skill that can be learned and improved. If we don't use it, we do lose it, which is why most adults, as I already mentioned to me, my balance is horrible. Okay. So balance is a skill they can learn. Balance and stability, although related, are 2 different things. Balance is the ability to maintain our center of gravity while we're moving. Stability is the goal of minimizing our movement as we're trying to stabilize our body and our joints. Both of those are skills that we work on and improve. Okay. So standing in with one leg in the air is more about stability than it is about balance. Okay. So throwing is a skill, catching is a skill. We call those, and they fall under the umbrella of targeting. Targeting is taking kinesthetic awareness and spatial awareness, kinesthetic being where our body is in space, and spatial where objects are in relation to us in space, taking them together and then being able to take 3 steps and get to the cone. Catch an object without having to necessarily look at the object. Being able to touch our fingers while being able to do a drill with the other side. Okay. So those are skills. Strength is a skill. Believe it or not, the ability to control our body, stabilize the parts that need stabilizing, actively contract the muscles that need contracting, inactively relax or passively relax the antagonists that need to relax. For example, while I'm doing a bicep curl, the muscle that is the agonist, my bicep brachii, while my tricep is the antagonist, and it will need to passively relax in order to get that smooth, controlled movement. Sometimes our kids definitely need time learning that skill, because part of the reason they get these shaky movements is they're too busy tensing up and getting nervous, and we need to remind them to breathe. Okay, speaking of breathing, we actually remind kids to breathe for two reasons, and it's not that it makes us stronger. The old adage of you're gonna exhale as you exert force to make yourself stronger is a mislabeled term. We actually remind kids to breathe because learning a skill, they're naturally gonna hold their breath. We do have a lesson on skill development as far as learning the skills that you can check out online at our online platform, education.strongertogetheracademy.com. Learning the skill falls into 3 skills stages. Cognitive, where we will focus, hold our breath, and easily get distracted if anything distracts us. That's why we do minimal cueing at the first stage. Second stage is the associative stage, and they can kind of look around a little bit. They're starting to breathe. And then the third stage is the autonomous stage, and now they've mastered that skill. Okay, so we're doing minimal coaching, minimal cueing during the first 2 stages. And now by the time they've really learned to master it, now we start adding in those challenges of speeding up, slowing down, unstable surfaces, distractions of adding in throwing an object like a tennis ball or a soccer ball while they're trying to do a skill. And we're trying to challenge them. A lot of times I'll do geography so they get an outside reference of like, what's the capital of North Dakota? And while they're trying to do the skill, they have to be thinking out. Math and sports trivia work very well for your students who are in athletics. If you have subject matters that are pertinent to your actual student, that helps to know and understand, because some kids are more into dance or movies or stuff like that. And you do want to relate those questions to partially try to distract them while they're trying to focus, and you add that little bit of a challenge, because all skills are learnable, adaptable, and potentially challenging. And what I mean by potentially challenging, if I simply close one eye, the easiest drill in the world becomes difficult. So, case in point, I can stand on one leg fairly simply. If I start to teeter-totter, it can be a very simple exercise. If from the side you see me here, I can do a teeter-totter. I'm getting movement, center of gravity balance, stability in my ankle and knee. But what I'm doing is I'm learning sequencing, and I'm also learning the skills of balance and stability. Now, if I want to make it more challenging, as I mentioned, I can close one eye. Now, as I do this, it becomes more challenging. Okay, I can close both eyes, and it becomes extremely challenging. All right, because remember, when we are gathering information, our eyesight is our number one means of gathering information. So closing one eye or closing both eyes eliminates that gathering of information. And now we have to become in tune. That's why they say a blind person will increase their other senses. That's why we want to touch stuff. We want to get a feel for it. Side note, for safety, because of that very notion, if you're ever using weighted objects as a targeting drill, like catching or throwing, let the person actively involved in the drills hold the ball first. Medicine balls are a great example. If you're using a medicine ball, always let the participants hold the ball before you make them do the drill, because their visual may be saying that should be about this weight, but their feel and their touch, their tactile, needs to get their hands on the ball for a better understanding of the weight behind it and how much force is going to be applied or needed when they're catching. So all skills are learnable, adaptable, and potentially challenging. All right. As far as the state and national standards for fitness-based PE, this does come from the Shape America standards. So there's a link if you want to look at it. And yes, I paraphrase these because standard one is, can they do locomotor and motor development skills? Okay. Can they move properly? State standard 2 or national standard 2 is, can they explain what they're doing? So they need to have that knowledge of capability of explanation. Okay. Explain it to me like I'm an 8-year-old kind of phrasing is very appropriate here. If you can, I believe it was Einstein, if you can't explain it in the simplest terms, you don't know it well enough. Okay. I'm paraphrasing Einstein in that. Okay. Explain it to me simpler and then make it simpler. Okay. So we want our students and our kids to understand and be able to apply, but then also be able to explain, because explaining it to someone else is what truly gives you explanation for yourself. All right. State standard 3 is, do they do it? Are they actually applying the skills that they're learning? Okay. Then 4 is, can they apply it with others? Can you create a situation or a scenario where you're taking those skills and using it on a team sense, a group sense, a more than just yourself sense? And then 5 is, do you understand the value, and are you learning that what you're learning is valuable and needs to be applied on a daily basis, weekly basis, lifelong basis? Once you've reached that, and teaching our kids to get to that point is the goal of our physical education courses. We want lifelong skill development, but more importantly, on learning it, we want them applying it for the rest of their life, so that when they are 45, they don't complain, oh, my balance is horrible. A lot of times I will explain to my people, as I just did when I was doing the single leg balance back there, I didn't lose my balance, which makes people believe it's easy. Well, it's not easy, but what I have at my leisure is the ability to practice anytime I want. I've also had no lag in practicing or training, because every day I'm explaining, doing, and actively practicing. So I have mastered certain skills because I've been applying those skills. Okay. All right. The actual structure of how we goal-oriented, meaning there are variables in play, but the goal of our structure is to look very similar. All right. So first thing we do after attendance and after we check anyone in is a dynamic warm-up. This has multiple effects and reasons behind it, most of which are, we warm up to loosen our joints, okay, get that viscosity in the fluids. We elevate the heart rate. We get and build some muscle pliability. We start to awaken the proprioceptors for balance and stability. But mostly we get the brain a chance to focus on task at hand. If you've known kids and observed them in other classrooms, other teaching situations, a lot of times the mind wanders and they get distracted and they'll be lost in thought. PE is task at hand, generally speaking. Yes, we can become good at certain skills and we can have our mind wander. That doesn't mean we're not focused, but certain things require less attentive focus. PE is task at hand oriented, meaning we need our brain to be awake. And part of the reason we do our dynamic warm-ups is get that brain awake. If you're unfamiliar with neurological recognition is you may have mastered something the first time, but until you do it for the first time today, your brain hasn't remembered it. Riding a bike is a great example. You learned how to ride a bike when you were a kid. You know how to ride a bike, although the first 10 or 15 seconds of you actually on a bike for the first time in a while, you might be a little wobbly as you start to get that pedal going. You know what you're doing. It just takes a little bit of time. All right. So we start with dynamic warm-ups. We are starting to realize that old school static stretching is not necessarily the most beneficial for creating a healthy, warmed up body. What we need is movement through full range of motion that allow the brain to focus on body control, that also allow us to get that rubber band effect of our muscles. Everyone grabs a rubber band and does a little bit of stretch here and there to get that warm up. Our muscles are the exact same way. We need that elasticity to get a little bit of a stretch in it so that we are now actively ready to perform. Okay, so these involve toe raises, ankle flips, butt kickers, knee raises, toe raises, walking toe touches, which is one of my favorites because it does get that balance involved. So walking toe touch, whether you do your left hand with your right leg or your right leg with your right hand, you're simply going down, step forward, go down, step forward. Okay, now, some kids will be unable to touch their toes. We remind them constantly, you're just working to the best of your ability. Some people have grown up being physically active and some people aren't. And we're trying to do the best for both parties. Reminding everyone it's just a fitness journey for your individual self, and comparing yourself to others is not the best way or best method for you to achieve personal happiness and mental growth. So yes, we are constantly reminding our kids, we're just doing the best that we can. All right, so we do hip external rotation. We can do some shoulder warm-ups if we have a lower or upper body day, shoulder warm-ups, anything involving the shoulder can be a dynamic warm-up. Remember, we try to target the movements that are going to be making up the majority of our class session with our dynamic warm-ups. That doesn't mean we solely focus on one specific target, because remember, our dynamic warm-up in and of itself is about developing a ready-to-perform body, but also building the skills of movement, flexibility, body control, stability, and balance, all right? So by teaching dynamic warm-up actively, we're learning the base root skills of human movement, okay, which is physical literacy. Physical literacy being strength, balance, stability, flexibility, movement capabilities, okay? When we get there, we are truly physically literate, all right? We then personally, because I'm a huge fan and a user and believer in mobility stacks, we apply our second portion of our mobility stacks. Our second part of class is mobility stacks, because they aid with the warming up for performance, but also they increase muscle pliability, beginner level strength training, and body control. A lot of our kids are in that growth spurt stage, and having that re-practicing body control is very important. Now, I'm going to go back for 1 second because I forgot to mention one thing. That dynamic warm-up can last 10 to 15 minutes. It can be as short as 5 minutes. Couple of variables in play is if we're doing moving drills like walking, butt kickers, or toe touches, how long is the length of your court? You know, Are you doing 5 yards? Are you doing 15 feet? Are you doing 20 yards? And then how many movements are involved? If you're just doing lower body, you're going to have a certain time frame. If you're doing upper and lower, you're going to have a longer time frame. Shorter going there and back distances, shorter time frame. So you know about how much time you have for your class. Some days we're a little ahead of schedule, some days we're a little behind, and you can manipulate that time frame just looking at your watch or your iPhone and saying we're on schedule. I constantly am measuring time to say we're on schedule for here, and you get very accurate and good at knowing where you're at based on knowing what else has to be done today and finishing right where you need to be. All right. So next is mobility stacks, as I already mentioned. Mobility stacks, when we create our sessions for the day, we know what we're going to be doing for balance, targeting, strength training. So we try to mimic the movements of our mobility stacks a lot of times to what our strength training is for the day. So our strength training may be body weight. It may be actual weight training for like barbell squats or something. So if we're doing barbell squats, which involve a lot of hip movement, knee movement, ankle movement, spinal stability, we may do a mobility stack of frogs, which loosen up our hips and our knees. And we may add in a cobra so that we get that, which would look something like this. So shift my weight back, frog, walk my hand forward, cobra, drop my hips, walk my hands in, shift my weight back, walk forward, walk back, frog. Okay, now the question always arises, how many reps are we doing? We generally prefer doing our mobility stacks for time because time is the great equalizer. If I have two individuals and one holds each position for, or each mobility position for different amount of times, let's say 3 seconds versus one kid who just kind of keeps going with the flow, both are good methods of doing it. But if we say you're going to do 10 reps, if one kid holds every position for 3 seconds and one kid holds every position for a second, that kid who holds it for a second is going to finish in a very, very short time. So we generally say, try to do things for a minute. If we're doing easier, less body positioning stuff where we're holding ourselves in, say, a push-up position, we'll do it for maybe 90 seconds. 90 seconds, because we'll get a little bit less movements, and holding yourself upright for a minute can be pretty taxing. All right. But like we said, we're getting stronger via our mobility stacks because we're learning how to control our body through movements, of which holding ourselves upright is building those strength abilities. All right. So next we have our balance and stability. We do our balance and stability a lot of times with a little bit of challenges, which I already showed partially with a teeter-totter, but we may start to involve our targeting. So if I grab a tennis ball, which is a very affordable PE piece of equipment and invaluable, I can put that tennis ball on the ground and know where that target is, and I could step over it, have to raise up, and teeter-totter to the ball and plant. I now put down, get ready, step over, targeting, movement, and balance. Okay, and plant. What I'm getting at is I'm combining all of my skills, or most of my skills, into a simple, easy, yet fun and challenging drill for the kids to use or do. Okay, so that was simple and easy. Targeting with balance makes drills more challenging and more about developing the skills, which is a good thing, and that is the goal, especially if we're low on time. Okay. If I just wanted it to be about balance, I don't have to do any pure movement. I can simply place that ball down. Now, my targeting says it's right there. My speed of rate of movement, my spatial awareness can change, right? I can either do it super fast or super slow. And then I can return. And now I'm going to do it super fast. And that speed made it more of a challenge. As you saw, I lost my balance. Okay, if I want another challenge, I can close one eye. I can do opposite hand reaches. All making certain drills fun yet challenging. Okay, so we can do a minute of pickups or 10 reps of pickups. You can build upon the skill of balance. One drill can be created to 5 drills. A beginner can start with easy level pickups, move slowly through level 2 of, say, variabilize the speed of your movement, move into level 3 of closing one eye, move into level 4 of changing the distance you are from the ball. For example, if I'm on top of the ball like so, relatively easy to do. Now, if I'm way back here, now this is going to be more of a challenge because my movement has to change based off of the variability of distance. Also, spatial awareness, practice, and learning. Also, kinesthetic awareness and marrying those two together, because now the distance of the ball becomes different and a variable that has to be accounted for. Level 5 could be changing and putting down where the ball is. So if I put the ball down in a different location every time, it becomes more of a challenge. Okay. All right. So we can teach closing different eyes. We can teach grabbing with different hands. We can teach moving at different rates of speed. We can teach at different distances. And all of those become variables that level 1 students, and I wouldn't tell them, hey, everybody, if you aren't good, you do it in a positive manner. I feel like that's important to understand. We teach in a positive manner. Stuff like, if you're ready to move to level 2, or if you're ready for another level of challenge, or if this is becoming easy for you, all of those are positive reinforcement methodologies of, if you're ready for this, let's move to the next level. You can take one skill and improve that skill. You can even do it in the course of just one day or over the course of the week. Those skills start to re-strengthen, let's say, and we're getting better at the skill of balance while doing a challenge that's both fun yet still challenging. All right. Then next we have targeting via movement. Okay. So spatial awareness, marriage to kinesthetic awareness. A lot of times we'll do cones for this, so that if I am here, I see where the cone is. I can still look straight ahead, but my peripheral is telling me where my cone is. I know the distance traveled without looking at the cone. Is my foot pretty close to the cone? I'm damn spot on. That's a practice skill. So that if I step farther away, I'm damn spot on still. Without having to measure my distance, I have developed enough spatial awareness and my kinesthetic ability to where I can step. I came up short on purpose so that I can reach, boom, I'm right on top of the cone without ever looking. I can turn, pivot, and touch without ever actually looking. Those are targeting spatial awareness drills that are challenging and fun, that give kids the ability to do strength training and movement training without it being something that becomes mundane and or routine. Because if I do it as a lunge, I'm getting lower body strength training. So my goal for this drill is to get my right foot right next to the cone and then do a lunge and touch with my left hand. This is a hypothetical because I just made up this specific drill, but you let your mind wander and see what works best for you and your students. Be creative, but be creative with a reason, okay? Don't just be creative to be creative. So open up, turn, plant. My foot gets right there. I go into the lunge, I touch, and I come back. I can make it more of a challenge and flexibility by stepping away. Now I need to get to that cone. I hope my flexibility allows for it. Boom, oop, balance challenge, touch, and replant. Okay, so I'm learning body control. I'm learning strength training, movement control, spatial awareness of getting to the cone, kinesthetic awareness of knowing where my foot needs to touch next to the cone. Touching the cone is kinesthetic and spatial awareness. Targeting is getting married with strength training, balance training, flexibility training, all with one simple, easy drill that essentially is very cost effective because all I needed was a cone. You can do it on your lines. You can do it on your basketball court with the different lines there. You can do it in a field and just say, try and step as far as you can. We're making PE easy and accessible. And all we have to do is think, be creative, and come up with fun ways for ourselves. Now, next and last of the official structuring is strength training. Remember, we're trying to help kids get stronger, which is a skill, build strength, which is that skill, but weight training isn't necessarily the most readily available option available. Bodyweight squats are a great option for building base level strength training that are actually very capable of doing for lifelong fitness. Getting out of a chair is a bodyweight squat. Can you raise up straight out of that position without having to rock forward? That is a functional activity that translates to lifelong fitness. Strength training does not have to be weight training. Most of our kids, until they develop that comfort in the gym, do not want and or need pure weight training. They should and hopefully will. But speaking from experience, I am someone who in my lifetime have said, I hate weightlifting. I don't know why I need this in my life. Freshman year, football, I just wanted to play football. Guess what? Life changes and we learn from our mistakes, okay? Hopefully. I learned from mine. All right. So strength training can be anything involving movement with body control that works through our full range of motion. That has a strength training element. All right. So think about all the movements of life that you perform, your squats, your lunges, your presses, your pulls, your hip hinges, your rotations, and your farmer walk carries, the 7 movements of life. And yes, we do have that course available on our online platform, education.strongertogetheracademy.com, where you can learn the 6 systems of adaptation, the 7 human movements, and the 8 variables of intensity. Okay, so strength training is about marrying those things together. Now, based on having enough time, we love ending with a challenge, a fun challenge, a gameplay challenge. And a lot of the times, our favorite, because I let them choose a lot of the times, is what we call pitching tennis balls or pitching quarters. Okay, if you grew up, closest to the wall wins, where if you have a tennis ball and you roll it to the wall, closest to the wall wins. Okay, we will have all the kids line up, everyone gets a tennis ball, closest to the wall wins. You could even do it where tomorrow, whoever wins today gets to pick tomorrow's program, learning lesson, the fitness challenge. So there is that competitive nature where it's an easy enough skill for everyone to compete at. Think of it kind of like a minute to win it kind of thing, where now kids are looking forward to what do they get to do tomorrow to potentially win. And yes, I am humble enough to admit the favorite part of every session that I ever have with kids is usually the last bit. It's not that they don't want to hang out anymore. They are looking forward to what game did they come up with. You can actually make it an interactive thing where you tell the kids, if you come up with a game that makes sense, we'll play that tomorrow. Okay, so we love to finish with something that's fun. It's also a little bit of a cool down. It gets them a chance to kind of calm down. It gets to build a little bit of the camaraderie, because yes, you can do partner and or team challenges, but all of those are fun ways or methods they can use for doing that. All right, so next on your slides, we go a little bit more into what we're talking about, but I've essentially already done that. I'm just going to repeat myself a little bit because everyone learns at a different pace. Sometimes hearing it once is good enough. Sometimes reading it is what we need. And sometimes actually doing it is important. Remember, everyone is a different type of learner. So let them learn either by reading it, hearing it, doing it, or watching it. Those are your general four, okay? So dynamic warm-up will increase your body temperature, increase your blood flow to the working body parts, and prepare us for the activity. Our mobility stacks will enhance joint mobility and our flexibility as we start to learn our body control and move through our ranges of motion. It will support our joint health. Joints get stiff because they don't get moved. And it also increases our muscle pliability, that stretch and recoil elasticity of our muscles. Very important for avoiding muscle pulls and or tears. We have balance training, which improves our stability, improves our proprioception and our core strength, because everything that is balance is really generally ruled by our core and our hips. Then we move into our movement patterns, which is our targeting, because we do build on coordination, agility, and functional movement as we learn our kinesthetic awareness and our spatial awareness. And then we have strength training, which does build our muscle, promotes overall fitness, and prevents injury. Number one injury as we age is a broken hip, can be preventable. Reason for that is most people break their hip because they lost their balance. They weren't strong enough to prevent the fall, and the fall actually leads to impact, which causes the broken or the fracture. Okay? Keeping better balance prevents us from falling. Being strong enough to catch ourselves when we're falling prevents us from falling. Those are two skills that we can teach, that we should teach, that we will teach, which help kids become healthier, better adults, preventing injury and or a lot of pain, because broken hips as we age are not a fun thing. Also, we're building osteoporosis, or we're preventing osteoporosis. Okay, if you've ever read the studies of, most of the time it was females who at their 60s and 70s had osteoporosis. Reason being the stupid, misguided belief that they were incapable of doing or shouldn't do strength training and or physical activity in the 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s led to what? Increase in osteoporosis in the generation that is a little bit older than me. Now, we were dumb. Let's get everybody physically active, and we're minimizing the risks of osteoporosis. They're still there, But if we're physically active throughout our life, our stronger bones prevent risk of injury. All right. So back to the structure. Dynamic warm-up creates movement that apply to life activity and today's activity. As I mentioned, we are trying to think of, as I have already mentioned, there is the mobility stack course that we have, which teaches up to 50 different movements that you can apply, because we do want them to apply what we're learning. Okay. Hey, today we're doing this. This is what helps us get better at that. All right. Our mobility stacks develop body control, gentle strength training, muscle pliability, and targeting skills. We do learn some base level targeting skills with certain movements. For example, the stinger, because I'm trying to get my foot to touch the ground or scorpion. So I'm going to go here, or other way, here. I want to gently touch the ground and back. Getting my knees down to the ground. I want my knees to be 2 inches away from the ground. I want my knees 6 inches away. I want to keep my knee bent while I raise up as high as I can and then plant. Pyramid. Okay? All of those are movements with a targeting capability, because touching the floor, keeping my knee bent, trying to get my knees closer to the ground are all aspects of targeting spatial awareness, kinesthetic awareness. Okay. Balance training teaches sequencing. Believe it or not, we move in orders. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Your foot may take a step, but your hand's going to very quickly follow in unison, called our gait, right? So if I take a step, my hand's going to want to go. So what goes first? The hand generally initiates the gait. So a lot of times we want to understand sequencing, because our kids, when they're trying to learn a skill, you ever have someone who just can't quite grasp stepping, and they're here, they'll grab their hands and just be here, and then can't see why it doesn't seem natural because they're here. Like even when we step to the side, our hands, if you have the hockey drill skaters, see how my hands initiate that movement? We have to remind our kids, don't hold up, because it changes the sequencing order of everything and it makes it an unnatural movement. That can be problematic. All right, targeting and movement patterns, the arts of kinesthetic awareness and spatial awareness. We learn our surroundings, our distances, and develop the skills of hand-eye coordination. And then strength training. Life is easier when you're strong. Carrying your groceries in on one trip, moving the furniture because you have to adjust something or vacuum, picking a heavy box off of the top shelf and putting it down. Very important skills to have. It does make your life easier when you're strong, physically strong. That doesn't mean you have to be the strongest person in the room or the biggest muscular person in the room, but being strong enough to perform your daily life. And lastly, challenges and games to love physical education. Okay, we want them bragging to their other teachers that Miss Jones or Mr. Smith is my favorite teacher and I love PE. Okay, that is a humble brag moment where the kids say we're the favorite. We want them walking away, which is why we do partially why we do our challenges at the end. We want them walking away with a big smile on their face, a sense of accomplishment, walking away on a positive versus, oh, well, that was boring and I hated it. All right. Now, if there are any questions, we're going to get to our question and answer scene. There's currently nothing open in the chat, but do you want to be a qualified fitness PE teacher? You're all great, I'm sure. You're here on a Saturday trying to be better. We are opening up our Mentor Academy. I will send you this PowerPoint so you'll have it available with a link to our Mentor Academy, which is going to be a private closed Facebook group where we will be doing our weekly courses. We're going to have downloads available as far as curriculum, learning lessons, PowerPoints, printables, strength training programs, all available in our, which is going to be our method for helping as many PE teachers as possible. You are capable, or you are allowed, and are hoping, we are hoping, you want to join us there so that we can help as many physical education teachers, schools, and districts start implementing fitness-based PE into their curriculum. If that is something you're interested in doing and you do want to be on the forefront of, including games, including sports, but really focusing on getting kids lifelong skill development and fitness-based PE for lifelong health and fitness, we would love to have you join us. It is a pricing membership, but we're doing a huge discount. It's 75% off right now. That if you join, you get a huge discount. We will be starting that September 1st, right after the first week of school for most of you, so you have a chance to get your feet wet and kind of understand. And we'll have stuff available for you exclusively there. Okay. All right. Then if you want to check out our website, has been recently updated. It is now fitnessbasedpe.com. We'd love to have you asking us questions there. We do have more free PD available. We have our manipulating movement webinar up, which is how we can change movements to create different adaptations. For example, a lunge, a simple and easy lunge, can be quad dominant or hamstring dominant, depending on the positioning of the upper body and the lower body. If I do a short stride, shift my upper body forward and drop in this position, it is now almost exclusively quad dominant. If I maintain upright, long stride, now go straight down, it is less quad dominant and more hamstring dominant, because the rule for compound complex exercises, the joint with the greater range of motion has the greater demand. So if you learn how to manipulate range of motion per joints, you can start to manipulate one exercise into having multiple benefits, meaning we don't have to reinvent the wheel every day, and we can now change the emphasis of our exercises to get an overall strong structure. All right, that's up on our website under our free PD, manipulating movement. We do have some printables. We have our fitness checklists. We do have our mobility ebooks, which teaches the difference between flexibility and range of motion. They're usually intertwined, but they're technically not the same. Give you a little quick hint. Flexibility is the individual human capability. Range of motion is what they should be capable as a human. So what can I do versus what can the species do? Okay, that's up on the website as well. All right, so I thank you all for coming today. Now, if you have any questions, you can chat, you can do what you got, but that is all that I have for today. I'm going to move this over here, and then let's see if anyone has any questions. And this is not working. So stop share. All right. Okay. Other than that, you guys are free to message me. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. I'm available pretty quickly via Facebook Messenger. Sometimes I'm with people and it takes a little bit longer to reply. But I do love what I'm doing, and I want to help as many people as possible, as many students and as many teachers and school districts, so that we start to understand there's a methodology on helping as many people as possible become as physically fit as possible, healthier lifestyle, we're better off. That's what we can teach kids. And then we start to combat the epidemic that is obesity, sedentary lifestyle, so that we're healthier in general. All right. Okay. All right. You are very welcome, Kim. Thank you for coming. This is what I love to do. My favorite thing in the whole world is teaching. As you guys probably feel the same way. I feel no better thing than helping other people have that light bulb moment of, oh yeah, when it just clicks. Okay. All right. So at what point do you move on to a deeper skill and add challenges? That's a variable that sort of has to be actively in play. I don't have a hard and fast rule for that. You, as the teacher, spend every day with your students. You sort of get a feel for what makes the most sense. I do truly wish I had a better, very specific answer, but us as humans, we are variable in and of itself. So there's no such thing as a success criteria. Sometimes it's just a simple, most of the class is getting it, most of it isn't. If most of it isn't, I will hold off on adding a new challenge. But a lot of the times that's why I do leave it up to them. And I will say, if you're ready if you have done this 5 times in a row, that's an easy one that I would say is probably the most likely method. If we're doing tennis ball drill, for example, I have a tennis ball right here. One of my favorite targeting drills is actually just easy bounce, back tap and catch, back tap and catch, back tap and catch. If you've done this 10 times in a row, you're now ready to add a movement step. Okay. And if you've done that 10 times in a row, so success is the number one rule for when do they feel ready to move on. All right. Thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. It's always nice to hear compliments. It's hard to, I am not going to be at, wait, well, when was Caper? Caper just happened, didn't it? Or a couple months ago, and it was in San Jose. I didn't go this year. It all depends on where Capered is. I love the people of Capered. I've had the chance to teach there 3 times, and I loved every minute. It was always an awesome experience. I will be at AZHPE. The next available time that I'll be presenting is in Arizona at Phoenix in late October. If any of you want to come to the Arizona conference, AZHPE, which is in downtown Phoenix, I believe the 30th and the 28th and the 30th, 28th to the 30th, I believe is the date. I'll be there for my next large national or state conference. Yes, I like the 3/5 attempt successful rate is very good. Some drills are super easy. If it is a very difficult thing, it might be like the end level challenge kind of thing. So, all right. Any other questions? I appreciate all of you. Thanks for coming out. I will have this recording available so that you guys can have it for yourselves. And you can show it, maybe hopefully show your other colleagues. They need to learn this as well. You guys are on the forefront as far as helping create a better fitness education for everybody. So, all right. Okay. All right. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to end this right now. You guys are amazing, and I appreciate you all.